This week, Scott Lyons and Josh Marpet will appear on the show to talk about the business of security. We'll talk about drinking from the InfoSec fire hose. And in our stories of the week, there'll be a splash, well, maybe a whole ocean full of IoT device security news. We'll go back to 1999 a lot. And a nuclear power plant was disrupted, and that's pretty much the whole article. JTAG is a lot of fun. And you, yes, you could win $50,000 from MITRE. All that and more, so stay tuned. This is a Security Weekly production. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where exploits run wild, packets aren't the only things getting sniffed, and the cocktails flow steady. It's Paul's Security Weekly. Security Weekly is brought to you by the SANS Institute, the most trusted source for computer security training, certification, and research. Visit SANS.org to explore the full curriculum and latest training offerings. Onapsis, the leading provider of solutions to protect ERP systems from cyber attacks. Customers can secure their SAP and Oracle business-critical platforms from espionage, sabotage, and financial fraud risks. Visit them on the web at onapsis.com. Pony Express. Check out their line of penetration testing devices, including the Pwn Pad, the Pwn Phone, and the Pwn Pro. For enterprises, there's Pwn Pulse, providing continuous visibility into wired, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth spectrums across all physical locations, including remote sites and branch offices. For all those hard-to-reach places, there's Pony Express. Visit them on the web at ponyexpress.com. Welcome, everyone, to Security Weekly. I'm, of course, your host, Paul Asadorian, the El Jefe, here at Security Weekly. And I'd like to introduce our very special guests, hosts and co-hosts for this evening. Immediately to my left, Mr. Doug White is here with us. And Doug, what is your title? What is your official title? Do you have a title?
Yeah, I do. I'm the chair of cybersecurity. The chair, by God. Chairperson. Sorry, it's the modern age. The chairperson of cybersecurity. Hallelujah.
For
Roger Williams University.
World? Oh, for Roger Williams.
In the world at large, or just anywhere.
Or just Roger Williams University.
That's right. Yeah.
Which is a university here in Rhode Island.
That is a university here in Rhode Island.
Playing geography. We're going to talk about geography a little bit on the show too.
Excellent.
It's going to be fun.
I like geography.
Brush up on your geography.
I'm good at geography.
Russell Bachman is here with us. Welcome, Russell. Hi. And what is your title, Russell? I'm sorry, I didn't have this in my notes. I meant to.
So it's changed since we were last here, and I'm the director of instructional support and learning innovation now for also Roger Williams University.
Excellent.
As well as doing some teaching on the side. So.
On the lines via Skype, a resident beach bum from South Carolina. He's Michael Santarcangelo, developing leadership in security at securitycatalyst.com. Welcome, Michael.
Hey, man. And I'm still here.
You're still there. That's good. The beach is not so much there anymore.
Parts of the beach are not. Some of the piers are gone, but we're still here.
That's good. That's good. I put a special note in one of the stories for this week, so at some point, make sure you check that out. It's very, very fitting for you. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but just one quick announcement, securityweekly.com/subscribe. Go there, subscribe to all of our shows. You can get all the shows individually. You can get a main feed of all the shows. It's all there, securityweekly.com/subscribe. So please do that. We just recorded Enterprise Security Weekly. It was a lot of fun. We talked about IoT security, oddly enough. So on to our special interview for this evening, and I say special because our guests are very special, as in, like, rides the short bus to school. Special? Is that not politically correct anymore? That is a horribly politically incorrect
joke. Oh, come on.
Joke.
Why not? It's still a descriptor, so I think it's okay.
It's a joke.
It's a joke.
You know what? It's my show.
Yeah.
Scott Lyons and Joshua Marpet are here with us. Scott and Josh and I together, maybe not the three of us together, but certainly individually together, if that makes any sense, have spent a lot of time at security conferences, getting into trouble, getting out of trouble, and having awesome conversations and a good time. So they co-presented, and I'm curious to see how you guys came together. That's kind of I want to hear that story too. But you guys co-presented at DerbyCon, and I'm like, hey, my friends made a really smart talk at DerbyCon. We should have them on the show, and here they are.
So my friends made a really smart talk at DerbyCon, and you're the one talking about us on the short bus?
Yeah.
That's a good point.
But anyway, so well, thank you for having us. Very much appreciate it. I guess I'll start off with the question you asked about how we got together.
Sure.
We actually met because our companies, WarCollar and CyberGRC, started working together, about a few months ago, Scott? And
yeah, that was about a couple months ago.
Well, it was probably more like 5 or 6, but we've known each other for a while. And when the company started working together pretty significantly and partnering, we started working together a lot more, and we started bitching to each other about various things going on in the security industry. And then we said, we should do a talk about this. And we did.
That's pretty much how a lot of talks get started. Scott, I'll start with you because Josh has been talking the entire time now. So, Scott, what is your title and your role currently, and what is your background in information security?
That's okay. I'm used to Josh talking a lot, but it's okay. Hey, you got to get him in when you can, Josh. So I'm the Executive Vice President of Business Development for a company called WarCollar Industries, WarCollar, WarCollar. We do a couple of things. Cybersecurity consulting is one of the main functions of us because we're good at it. And we also develop IoT products, so Internet of Things. And most recently, if you happen to be at DerbyCon, you got to see the Dope Scope in its fabulous glory. Yes, we're going to go with that. The Dope Scope is a little box with a chipset on the inside, custom-built chipset that anybody can use to modify, to do things with. But what this current configuration does is it allows you to see all of the rogue Wi-Fi access points in front of you and nothing behind you. So when you go and you turn into a different direction, it shows you all of the rogue Wi-Fi access points in that direction. We are working through a little bit of manufacturing hiccups on our end to really move it. We recently just did an interview on one of your competitors, who I'm not going to say, but you can easily go out and Google it. And
that's okay. You can say it, Scott. It's fine.
Oh man, it was Hack 5. It was an interview. Gene Bransfield, who's the CEO of WarCollar, did an interview at Derby on Hack 5, and since then our inboxes have just absolutely exploded.
Awesome.
Looking for the Dope Scope.
Oh, that's great.
So
I was worried that you said it was something for the medical community, because it's Dope Scope sounds like something that I don't want in any of my orifices.
Where does that? Yeah. How big around is that device?
And find the guy with his right hand pulled up, and that's where you get it. Okay, never mind. No, it's definitely not for the medical field. We're a little bit overwhelmed with the draw of the Dope Scope, but we're working on it. If you go up to WarCollar.com or forum.warcollar.com, it's where we're hosting the most latest information about where we are with the process, and you have the ability to put in pre-orders for the Dope Scope.
Excellent. Thanks, Scott. Josh, I want to turn it back over to you and talk about kind of your journey in information security. You and I have spoken several times. I know you've had various roles, so I'm curious to kind of get like the full history there.
The full history?
Well,
okay,
a shortened version of the history.
Yeah, I'll do the short version. Don't worry. So I've been doing information security for well over 10 years. I've been doing IT for over 20. Sometime in the middle, I was a cop, a firefighter, and a horse dentist. Weird things happen. And I started at ADP, the biggest payroll company in the world. And I got into information security because a good friend of mine shut down the SQL server and shut down payroll for 1/7 of all of America.
Yay.
And I said, what do you mean you did that? And he went, well, it shouldn't have turned off. And I said, okay, awesome. Should you think maybe you should turn it back on? He goes, that's probably a good idea. So he did. And that I thought that was just really cool. So I said, let me go, let me go try this stuff out. And I started in security back then. Since then, I've been at the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia. I did a startup and ran a startup for a while. I was at Mach 37 in Herndon, Virginia, the accelerator down there, so best cybersecurity accelerator in the world, as far as I'm concerned.
Is it Bob Stratton? Yes. Yeah, we had him on the show a month or two ago.
Look, Bob's a brilliant guy, smart as hell, and knows just about everybody. He was at In-Q-Tel. I mean, the people they've got there are amazing. I learned so much. And really, that was what one of the things that prompted these talks, this series of talks. We actually have 6 talks planned out, from the one talk we did at DerbyCon to all the other talks. And they're going to be done out of sequence. But when we put them together, they're effectively, the idea is, why should you go into business for yourself? Are you that pissed off at your bosses? Are you not making enough money? Are you, is the world just totally screwed for you? To what should you do? How should you do it? How do you get everything started and rolling? And then, how do you build this? How do you do business development? How do you do sales management? How do you make sure that people that work for you are doing the work, all the way to exit strategy? Should you run the business, acquisition, whatever?
Yeah. So Josh, so why give this talk at a security conference?
Well, okay, so that's one of the
I'm going to channel Michael. What's the problem we're trying to solve? I got you, Michael. I got you.
Okay, so the problem we're trying to solve is pretty simple. Technologists go, my God, those salespeople and executives are making so much friggin' money. Why aren't I? And they go, I'm going to start the business, and the money will just roll in. And it doesn't.
Yeah. Is it 80% of new businesses fail?
90. Startups? Startups, it's actually 98.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's like trying to get into the NFL. Seriously.
Hey, Josh, what about that time that you had a lady? I was off to the side, but you had a lady come up to you and say, I want to start my own business and I want it to be successful. Do you want to talk about that real quick?
So I had somebody walk up to me and say, you know what? In 2 or 3 years, I want your job. I'm like, what? Being like poor and miserable and worried every day? And this is when I was running my startup, which I have since closed down, which was the right choice. But she goes, no, I want to be a CEO making lots of money. And I said, that's great, but you better start planning. She goes, well, what should I plan? I said, well, you better learn business as well as technology. You better learn, because ideas are worthless. Implementation is everything. Mm-hmm. You better have contacts. You better have contracts. You better have ideas. You better have implementation. You better know everybody you can possibly know and have them owe you favors that you can cash in on to get your business off the ground. She goes, wow, that's a lot of work.
Absolutely
and
it is.
It is. I can't argue with her, but honestly, it's a lot of work. And so that's why we did these talks, because we wanted to solve that problem.
Go ahead,
and
Scott.
more often than not, we're finding people that want to be Dave Kennedy, that want to be Jim McMurray, that want to be Bill Gardner, that want to be Paul Asadorian, that want to have these companies with all these contacts, with contracts built, and they figure, well, if they can do it,
why can't I?
Shit, if Paul can do it, anyone can do it.
No, Paul beat me to that. If Paul can do it, anyone can do it. It's like, almost inspired me to do something, but yeah.
But Michael, I want
short bus.
Yes, the short bus.
Michael, you and I didn't. Michael, you and I didn't really talk about this interview, but I know this is a topic that we talk about a lot on Startup Security Weekly, and that is very near and dear to your heart. So, up to this point, do you want to ask questions or guide it in a specific direction?
Yes.
I know I'm putting you on the spot.
No, it's fine. I like to put on the spot. I'm kind of enjoying it, and I love the fact that we're doing things like this to make it better. I guess here's the question I would have. When you guys are out talking to people, what's either the one thing that you wish more people heard when you said it, or What's the most surprising question that you get as a response?
Okay, let us both do this. Scott, you want to start, or do you want me to start?
Let's split this up and we'll go half and half. How about that?
Okay,
we'll do halfies.
Go ahead.
Josh, you go first.
Okay, so the one thing that I hear is, but I've got such a great idea. Mm-hmm. And I keep telling them what a venture capitalist said to me. We've actually titled one of our talks after this. This is a direct quote, okay? Direct quote, verbatim, his mouth to God's ear, okay? The technology is worth 5%. Mm-hmm. And that's it. So if you get great technology, a great idea, and that's all you've got, I'm not going to invest in you. So that's...
Well, that's really interesting for a lot of us.
And you couple that with what we talk about the most, which is, a lot of people in this industry don't get the fact that if you really want to make things happen, whether you're starting a business, whether you're continuing business, whether you're trying to promote business or make side money, it all comes down to networking. How well do you know the person sitting next to you at the conference? Have you actually shaken their hand? Or did you just awkwardly sit next to them, hoping that they wouldn't be some clown in the woods?
Yeah, I mean, that's, well, a different problem in a lot of different respects. But I want to go back to what Josh was talking about, that the technology is 5%. And I think a lot of people in our field not only underestimate the interpersonal and relationships and communication, but also underestimate how little the technology plays into all of it. And one of the things that Michael and I talk about, and it sticks out in my mind, is you can have a great idea. And to you, and these two things intertwine, to you, it's awesome. You're like, I am solving this problem. I am owning it. This is awesome. Mm-hmm. And then you go talk to the people who are your friends, Scott, right? Maybe not the person sitting next to you, but the people who are your friends. And they're like, yeah, that's an awesome idea. And then you get to a venture capitalist or you get to other people and they're like, wow, that idea sucks. Yeah. I mean, not that it's a sucky idea, but that it won't make a successful business, I should say. No. It's not that it's a bad idea.
I used to do that for a venture capitalist a long time ago. I mean, he wanted to invest in things, and they would get people come in, and it's exactly like music. You get people, and your friends are in a band, and they say, don't you like it? And all their friends go, oh, it's awesome, man.
It's a great analogy.
But then they go play, and people are throwing ashtrays at you, which is why I'm not in music anymore. But, I mean, he had me sitting there so I could, because I was the person who would say the emperor has no clothes. Mm-hmm. And this poor person is sitting there telling me about this wonderful C program they've written and how it's going to solve all the world's problems and cure cancer and feed the poor. And I'm going, really? Are you sure about that? And then...
So let me...
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry,
So let me... It's okay. No, it's incredibly legit. But let me point out that I get a lot of people who are starting businesses come to talk to me. I'm an advisor to several companies, including like Cybrary and various others. But one of the questions I almost inevitably ask is, does it pass the so what test? Mm-hmm. And they go, well, what do you mean? I'm like, as a business owner, why do I care about your product? Yep. What does it do for me? What benefits does it give me? Like, no, you don't understand. I'm like, oh, I understand perfectly. You haven't made me understand.
Yeah. No, I mean that sales piece of it and that favor piece of it is so important because you have to convince somebody of the value-added nature of it. And it's really easy to convince tech people if something's cool, but actually showing a business person who's got a bunch of money that they're getting ready to risk on you, that product can actually be a value-added component of a corporation or a value-added component for individuals out there in the industry. That's a tough sales job, especially when the person's going, when he keeps saying C, is that like SEA or what is that? And just pushing that through, and that's why knowing them helps, because if you know them, you can call this other guy and you can call and say, hey, Doug, could you come help me tell this guy about this product? And maybe I can and maybe I can't. But if you can call somebody personally, I think that when you said favors, I was like, yeah, that's a good one. I like that one a lot. I'm going to add that to my little spiel.
I want to go ahead, Scott.
Well, what I was going to say was, it would be very simple for you to go and watch an episode of Shark Tank, and if you think that you can pass the tank, then you might have something.
Check.
Yep.
Shark Tank reference. We have one more television show to reference before this segment is complete.
Well, it's not The Apprentice, is it?
Oh, God.
Oh, no.
We're not going there.
What were you going to say, Michael?
No, it's just well, this will almost be a startup segment as long as we get that other show referenced.
We're just going to copy and paste this segment right onto Startup Security Weekly, which is great. No, it's great. It's good stuff. Michael was asking, like, what are some of the more surprising questions that people have asked you, or the more surprising answers?
Oh, goodness. Some of the more surprising questions. Why don't you think somebody will give me $1 million in venture capital right now? Can you, and they're asking me to justify a negative, and I'm like, no, you haven't given me enough justification for the positive. Why should I? How about what qualities should a CEO have? And it's like, well, it depends on what kind of company. They've asked me, do you think I'm worthy of being a CEO? And do I really want to go? No, you're an ass. But
wait, I thought that was a quality, but well, never mind.
No, sociopathy. Sociopathy.
That's the one.
Mm-hmm. There have been questions ranging from, what's a good product? Can you give me an idea? And I'm like, really? Come on, man. To where should I go for funding? And it's like, well, if there was a magic spring.
Let me do it a different way then, because I bet we could do that all night. What's one of the questions that somebody's asked you where you kind of stepped back and went, yeah, that's the right question. I like the way you're thinking about it, because it maybe doesn't happen as often. Maybe you are getting the questions like, my cat gave me an idea last night. What do you think? And you're like, I can't.
I've had that.
But go the other way.
Hey, how do you think WarCollar was started?
Somebody comes up to you afterwards, and I don't mean like they're giving you their idea. Like, I mean like they're asking an insightful question where you're like, yes.
When they ask about the difference between features and benefits, and or maybe not those words, but when they ask, how do I actually show the value to a customer? That makes me happy.
It's a great question.
That is a great question.
When they ask, what are the things that a venture capitalist looks for in a company that will succeed fast versus a company that will succeed over time? Those are great questions. When they ask me, can we do funding without venture capitalists? They're trying to think outside the box. Yeah. There's so many good questions out there, but oh my God, they're so outnumbered by the bad ones. It's terrifying.
Yeah, and to add to that, one of the other ones that we get a lot as well is, how do you find your deal? And how in the hell do you close the deal? How do you do what you do?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think, now, let me ask this of you, Josh and Scott, because Michael and I are somewhat jaded on this issue, I think. We've talked about it at length. And in security, I truly believe, and I talked to John on Enterprise Security Weekly too, in security, I think we're kind of like we're jaded. We have a chip on our shoulder towards vendors in the whole sales process. But then, as you guys have shown through your talk, there are people like us that are interested in technology and security that want to create companies. So then how do we go do the sales process with that kind of baggage that I feel like a lot of us are taking with us from the whole sales experience in security, which I don't know if it's necessarily that different from other industries, but I feel like we kind of have a chip on our shoulders, and I think that stems from our personalities that have driven us to work in security, highly skeptical, asking a lot of questions. No?
I totally disagree, and I'll explain why. I was at a lecture from an impressive person, and I'm not allowed to speak about who because she asked for anonymity, but very, very impressive lady. And she said that in the security industry in the last, I think it was 15 years, it could be 10 years, 1,800 to 2,200 new companies have sprung up, products, okay? 90% of them, some ridiculous percentage of them, are Me Too products. In other words, they're copies, second generation or 1.2 generation of some other product. Most of them will go away. There's going to be, and I'm quoting, a bloodbath, okay? And I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that. The problem is not that we're that skeptical. The problem is that we have so many choices, and they're so much the same, and they're only slightly different in a lot of cases, that we're always looking for that little bit of edge or that little bit of deal. So it's almost like we've become fantastic negotiators and hagglers. We can walk through the marketplace and go, no. I don't, go to the car dealership and go, my uncle said I'd never pay for seatbelts, that kind of thing. But, And also, to answer your first question about how do we be successful, in my opinion, it's about personal relationships. Look at Pony Express. How many people that watch your podcast know the people at Pony Express? Okay. Zero Chaos, who's one of the head of research and development at Pony, was at B-Sides Delaware, my conference this past weekend, and he was there with the wireless CTF. He, when somebody came up and asked him a question about Pony, he's like, "Here, let me explain it to you." Those personal relationships. Raf Mudge with Cobalt Strike. You've got some vendors out there that we inherently trust because we know them.
And an interesting word there is trust. And very early on in my career, when I was creating my first businesses in this industry, I had an advisor who happened to be Ed Scotus, thankfully, at the time. Very lucky to have Ed as my advisor. Really kind of drove that home with me and said, I'm like, traditional business tactics really don't work. And like, what is it? And he really conveyed to me and said, you have to really give something and develop trust. You have to give something to the community and develop trust. And I'm like, well, I'm all about that. That's cool. Mm-hmm. I'll do that. Do you guys agree with that? Is that something you recommend to people who specifically are looking to start businesses in security?
If you don't have trust, you have nothing in this community. Mm-hmm. If you don't have, and Scott mentioned it before, networking. If you haven't met the person next to you at 100 conferences, if you haven't even if you can't afford to go to conferences, stream them. Ask questions at the end of the videos. You'll get answers. Talk to people on IRC. There's a lot of the conferences of IRC channels or Slack groups or.
Now, I'm going to push back a little, Josh, and say that building relationships in the community, I think, that's kind of table stakes for me. However, the CSOs and executives to a lot of these companies that are making the purchasing decisions of these products aren't hanging out in IRC. They're not going to B-Sides Delaware. And I think this is something a lot of us in security struggle with. Certainly in the past 11, almost 12 years, I've struggled with that too. How do you then build relationships with that level?
Scott.
Well, it's interesting. You have to figure out who you're connected to and who can really help you. Being able to develop those relationships that we're talking about right now and cultivate them and understand who the key players are within the organizations and then who can help you get to where you need to be. And then conveying your message to those people is really the meat of how this works, right? When you're talking to a C-level exec, they care about three things, okay? Get in, do your job, get out. Okay, look at all hacks across the board. They're basically jewelry heist, smash and grabs, right? You get in, you grab your gear, you get out. Or you get in, you exfil data, you get out. It doesn't matter. You look at all these security products and the way that they're done. Everybody only cares really about the get in. Nobody cares about the exfil or the get out. And there's very few companies that care about that, right? So when you're conveying a message to a C-level exec or you're working your way up the chain to the C-level exec, you say, do you really want to pay $100 million on a breach, or do you want to buy $10,000 worth of gear and then pay for the $20,000 for maintenance and service on the back end for me to put it in for you?
Yeah.
Keep in mind though, this is where that trust comes back in, because I get this all the time when people pitch me. Well, the average breach costs $10 million, and so I stop them and I say, so your whole value prop is predicated on me buying that, right? So when I call bullshit and I show you that's not really the number, then what happens? So it's I don't disagree with your point. I think executives care about a few more things, but I think you're making good points. But it's kind of like, we always do, well, it could be $100 million or you can pay me $100,000. It's not that simple, right?
No, it's not. Well, you're absolutely right.
To complete the thought real quick, point two, getting back to what you just said and addressing it, is how do you approach to and talk to people, right? You have to know your target audience, right? So you as a C-level exec, the way that I work versus the way that Josh works, they're two different things. I'm going to have a very informal conversation with you. I'm going to be your best friend. I'm going to hold your hand from day one all the way to the paycheck, right? And even then afterwards, I'm still going to come back. You have to do that. You have to provide customer service in a manner that makes them feel like you are a gentle, warm blanket.
But I want to address
hold
Michael's question.
more than your hand. Because I can attest. Never mind.
I don't know what you're talking
Back to the
about.
short bus.
So, Mike, I just want to address the last bit of your question. You're absolutely right. I can't make a value proposition predicated on you might lose money. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So what you have to do is have a value proposition that's, it's definitely going to be part of your sales spiel. I'm not going to lie. The Ponemon Institute numbers are impressive as hell, okay? And we all know that's where that stuff comes from. But I mean, realistically, your value proposition has to be, we're going to add value to your operation. We're going to shorten your sales cycle, lessen your sales friction, make your operation more efficient, something. And we're not going to add headcount. And those are the things that actually make somebody go, hey, you've got to do this because of the compliance regime X, whether it's HIPAA, PCI, NISPOM, something. You've got to do it because of compliance regime X. We're a decently priced way to do it, and we add these values as well. And you would save X number of dollars if, these breaches don't happen. Hey, it's part of the sales pitch, but it's not all of it. That's the way to do it. Does that make sense, Mike? Was I answering your question correctly?
Oh, no, you answered it well. In fact, I'm going to say, Paul, he trumped your comment in the news articles. Value, we're new to each other, but value is pretty much what I call the predominant. And if you can't show me, actually, I'll tell you what I expect. I expect that based on my investment that I get that much value out of your solution in the first 90 days and 3 to 5 times in the first year. If not, you have wasted my time and you should leave.
It depends on the implementation. Some products take a while to implement, but I would agree with you overall.
If it's going to take longer than a year to show me value.
No, 90 days.
I don't mean,
90
I'm
days,
not talking
90
internal
days.
rate of return,
Not the year.
on investment, all the esoteric stuff. I look at value in a couple more simple lenses.
No.
If
not
you
the year,
can't
not the year.
demonstrate
90
value,
days.
and you went through them pretty well. I mean, you're on point. Then you're missing the point. And it's fascinating though because we talked before. People, they get so excited about the tech, they get so excited about the features. We never talk about those benefits. And it's like, right, so what do I do?
It's a great lead into my question. A lot of us in security, I think we're really comfortable talking in the organization to the more technical folks. We kind of call that like a bottom-up approach. And I think a lot of companies struggle with the top kind of down approach. How do you recommend in your presentations that people in security deal with that problem of selling it to the technical folks and to the executives, and where do you start and where do those two converge?
That's going to be an individual problem. Every company has technical folks and business folks who are not technical at varying levels. You can have a CISO who's extremely technical. You can have a CISO who's never touched a command line interface in their life. So it depends. And I hate doing that to you, but it's true. So for some cases, it's going to be, I met him at a conference. He's a CISO and he really loves what we were talking about. Let's go make a sale. Awesome. At sometimes it's going to be, I need to go speak at a conference that's a business conference. And by the way, our series of 6 talks is going to be given at business, security, and IT conferences, not just security conferences. And we're doing that deliberately because we want to spread this gospel, if you will, across different industries, across different verticals. So we're speaking at InfoSec World in April in Orlando, which is...
I'll be there. We can hang out. Cool.
We'll be there as well.
Michael, will you be there? You were there last year.
InfoSec World?
Yeah.
I'm actually leading the security summit, and we're going to offer some coaching sessions for
Look at that.
leaders.
All 4 of us can hang out in Orlando.
I can't wait.
Kevin Johnson's going to be there.
Oh, now you just spoiled the party. Oh, sorry. Did I say that out loud? Sorry, Kevin. I'm only kidding, Kevin. I love you, Kevin.
Dude, Stormtrooper's coming for you now, or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I think some other people are going to be there as well that, I don't think I can name them quite yet. But yeah, we got official acceptance for InfoSec World. We want to give this at multiple conferences at multiple places for that same reason. We want to meet people and get these ideas across that there are ways. Let me give you a quick idea. I put together a meeting between Philadelphia hackers and Philadelphia business people like 2 years ago, and just to see what would happen. I literally had a graduate student from UPenn, I think, sitting down at a table with a businessman, tie and collared shirt and everything, and the businessman was going, "Wait, you can build that? I'll pay you for that." And the grad student was like, "You'll pay me to build that?" And it was just. I mean, there's such a disconnect that if we can make those connections and make introductions for people, we're doing pretty good, and we're happy to do that.
So give me an overview of the 6 steps. Like, where do you begin, and roughly what's the progression to step 6?
We sent a graphic over. If you have it, you can throw it up on screen.
I saw that.
Yeah.
But basically, the idea is that the 6 steps, it starts with, so you have an idea and a hatred for your boss. Let's talk. And that's the technology is worth 5%, because we've got to get you through the process of understanding what your product is and your value proposition. We've got to get you through the idea of starting a business. What does that take? Is it an LLC? Is it a stock, C class or an S class? Is it a series LLC? There's all kinds of things there. What are the perils and pitfalls of starting a business? How do you actually go from building a product? And by the way, there's a development team problem there. All the fun DevOps stuff, because we all love DevOps, and it is absolutely the best thing ever. And sorry, I couldn't resist. All the way through actually going operational. I've made a sale. Oh God, now what? You've got to support it. You've got to you've got to patch things. You got to do hot fixes. You've got to have a support line, documentation.
Josh,
Wait, I have to document stuff?
I want to
all the way to
stop you
exit
there.
strategy.
I want to stop you there. I mean, being in a business for almost 12 years now, the operational piece is a never-ending process, right? Like, it seems like to me that every few times a year, I've got to redefine my process. So as your business grows and changes, you've got to change all those operational processes, and it seems it's a never-ending process, because once you not fix, because maybe it's not broken, it just needs attention, right? It just needs a process around it, and you define it, and then you're like, well, now I got to go back to where I started before, and I got to go revamp that process, make it better, and I that's with step 3 in your that's a never-ending loop for me.
Absolutely. But let me ask you a question. I've got 2 questions for you. There's 2 pieces of information you should have in your hindbrain, memorized. It should be reflex status. 1,
oh boy,
what's your
mission statement? Going to be a test. Sorry, go ahead.
1, what's your mission statement? Seriously, do you have one?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And 2, do you have an elevator pitch?
Yes.
Everything in your company, everything in your business should match and map back to those 2 things. Period.
I even have guiding principles. You know what? We'll talk after. You need to get my information, and I want to show it to you and get your advice.
Love it. I'd love it.
Both
I'd love to see it. I'd love to sit down with you and talk about it.
Yeah, but to add on to it, business, one of the real keys to success is diversification. Okay. And that is, are you looking at different verticals? Right? Are you expanding your east-west routine inside an already built vertical? Right? Are you expanding your product set? Are you revamping your product set? Right? So it's much like there's a great parallel between life and business, right? In that if you sit still long enough, you're pretty much going to waste away. If you do not change your product in your business, you do not evolve your product, your money's going to do the exact same thing. And then it's not going to be, oh God, where do I get my next contract from? It's going to be, oh God, I have a mortgage. I have 10 mortgages. Every single individual that works for me has a mortgage. Oh crap, what do I do now? And you're just going to find yourself in a quandary of, well, 8 months ago, I either should have fired this person, or I should have redone my product in such a manner that it fits a different vertical, right? And then you take that vertical and you expand the vertical, and now look at where you are. You've diversified your portfolio.
I think one of the skills that, at least for me, and I've never verbalized this before, but I think a lot of us in technology, we suffer from the ADD of technology. So I can go solve a problem over here, and then I can go build that new shiny thing over there, and that's kind of cool. And then I went to Google today. It was a prime example. I went to Google today, and at the bottom in small text, it's hey, this month's Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Click here for your security awareness. I'm ooh, shiny thing. Click. Yeah. But when you have a business, it's different from developing software, and at least the way I develop software, right? I'm I want to go work on that feature, and okay, well, maybe I'll go back and work on that feature and then modify that feature, and I can work my way through. When you have a business, how do you recommend people manage their time, right? There's a million things you can be doing, but I know that like today, there's 1 or 2 things that are probably the most important, and then like my week, I know I need like these 6 things, and like where do you focus your time on? Where do you recommend people do that?
I'll give you the quick and dirty answer, and there's a lot of answers to that. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of answers to that, okay? And there's people that do Pomodoro timers, and there's people that wake up at 5:30 and do burpees until they're puking in the trash can, yada, yada, yada. But the Dan Woolley from Mach 37, who's one of my great mentors, he's an amazing dude, gave me this answer. He said there's 3 types of companies. There are development-led companies. They never ship anything because the developers always find something new and shiny to build, just like you were describing. There are sales-led companies, and they never ship anything because the salespeople are always trying to sell the next version because they want the next commission. And there are marketing-led companies, and the marketing-led companies are the ones that ask the customers what they want, determine what's the most important, and then push the company to develop that so the product is beautiful, wonderful, and it's what the clients will actually use, build, and work with. So at the end of the day, what you want to do I mean, look, how many times do you ask your viewers for, hey, give us some feedback on X, or send in an email about Y? And you have to. You need the feedback. You should crave that feedback so that you know what your viewers are looking for and wanting. You're measuring things with Google Analytics, I would imagine, or some other analytics suite, and you're looking to see what they're looking at, what they're doing, so you can tune and shape your business, your product, into exactly what they need and want. And sometimes you'll go against a little bit because you think, hey, if I only show them this for a little while, they'll love it. And that's cool. That's experimenting.
My general advice is if you're not Apple, you can't do things like remove the headphone port. Like that's a lot of molding and shaping.
I say even if you're Apple, you can't do that.
Maybe even if you're Apple, you can't get away with that. Although they do have a track record of being a pretty successful company. And they've done stuff like that in the past a lot.
Yes, but you know what? This beautiful, sleek vision that they have for the MacBooks and the phones, it is totally ruined by the $1,000 worth of adapters I got to carry for the damn things. Yeah. So sorry.
That's true.
Well, it was.
Never mind.
It was funny that you led into this. It was funny that you led into this, Paul, because the CEO of T-Mobile was actually just quoted on Business Insider. They said. She goes, how can I summarize how I succeed as a leader? And her response, which really rings true here, was listen to your employees, listen to your customers, shut the F up, and do what they tell you. Right? And that actually rings true here with a lot of how business works, and especially, what you feel your business should be. Listen to your customers, listen to your clients, and do what you're told. And most importantly, sometimes you have to sprinkle a little bit of STFU.
Yeah, I mean, you can't implement every feature that the customers are requesting because that feature could be for just that one customer and no one else is going to use it. I mean, putting my time in vendor land for 7 years, I certainly experienced that firsthand and was involved with that process actually at Tenable. So I wish it was as easy as, just listen to what your customers say. Yeah. There needs to be a filter there, in my opinion.
Ron Gula actually totally turned that paradigm around. He pulled an Apple a lot of the times, and you know that as well as I do. But he actually did it successfully. He had a vision, and he stuck to that vision, and it worked. God bless him. But most of the time, that's a really bad idea.
Yes. I call that the lightning strike problem, and
like a thunderbolt.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what it is. Is that in German? No, but I mean
maybe it's a firewire.
but I mean, at the end of the day, most of those dice rolls are going to fail. But you do get that person who comes out and says, "What if I did this?" And most of the time, the answer is, "Well, then you'd be starving." But just that one lightning bolt hits them, and that's the guy who comes up with that new thing that steps the industry and everything changes. So it's good that they're there, but you probably, as a startup person, don't really want to be that person because that's the guy that walks up to the craps table and says, "All my money on that," and he wins. Most of the people walk away going, "Wow, I just lost my house." But there's that one guy that walks up there and goes, "Yeah, I've seen it," and you just go, "Wow, that guy just won like $50,000."
I mean, I think they call that Uber.
They do call that Uber.
And look what happened with Palm Pilot was a big name in the 90s and in late 90s, whatever. And
Apple had Newton.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It came from Newton, but who remembers Newton?
the nerds in us do.
Right.
Yes,
right.
we do.
And Sony had the Clea
I still
series
have
and
one.
so on and so forth. So,
Wow, now Russell,
Well,
you're showing
you know,
a real. Wow, you're up there on the nerd scale, dude. I'm impressed. I'm
all right.
impressed. Get that man
Well,
another
actually,
drink.
you want a business story about that. So the CEO at the time of FedEx, do you know this story?
I don't.
The CEO of FedEx, this is early days for FedEx. They needed $40,000 or $37,000, something like that, to fuel their planes that night. Otherwise, they were going to go out of business. Period. They only had $18,000 in the bank. The CEO of FedEx took the cash out of the bank, flew to Vegas, and played blackjack. Not a joke.
No way.
Swear to God. Swear to God.
Yep.
I never heard that before.
Yep.
Came back with $57,000.
Wow.
And that's why
Why
FedEx
did he
is
stop at
where they are
57?
today.
Why didn't he go for 100?
Because he was smart.
He
Well,
made
the
his
real
money.
fun-
He flew.
The real fun part about what we do is the fact that we get to interact with people from various walks of life, various degrees of knowledge. And one of the things that I wish personally, and I'm not speaking for this guy over here, that I'm not speaking for him, is that schools would actually start carrying classes that were geared towards both cybersecurity and, had a smidge of business sprinkled on top of it. There's a paradigm problem right now in that we have more security jobs than we have people. We have kids coming out of college that now Josh and myself are trying to put to work, right, to build our employees, to build our contracts, and they don't have the experience that our customers are wanting, or the clearances, or the business savvy to be able to make an impact. So, do you, as a question leading up on the tail end of this whole diatribe, SAT word, do you foresee some sort of a shift back to traditional schooling with this whole hacker culture being influenced upon it?
That's a question for Doug and Russell.
Okay.
Ooh, education people.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, Scott, one of the things that I've heard recently, because I have to follow trends given my new job, is that if you want to get employed now, you don't get an MBA. Because an MBA is one, along with a couple of other areas of education, an MBA is one of those degrees that, like everybody has. It was like graphic design, 15, 20 years ago. Lots of people ended up, I'm a graphic designer, or a web designer is another example. It's like, I can code in my sleep. Yeah, my ass you can. But, it is what it was. So, but today, MBA, I like what you said, is you kind of go with the cybersecurity route and then sprinkle in or season in, like you said, Scott, some sort of business acumen or business courses. Doug, what do you think?
No, I agree. I think one of the issues we have, and we have a regular board that we meet with from industry. So we bring people like Larry is on our board and ask them, you hire our students, what do you want them to know? And we try to tailor the curriculum for cyber back into what do you want? Because I would rather the guy that's doing the hiring tell me what they want to know than let me decide, because I know what I want, but that doesn't mean it's cool. And so if those people come to me and they say they want them to know this, they want them to know Unix, they're going to learn Unix, and we try to put them out. The problem with all that is academics moves very slowly, so making change is not always readily available. But trying to add business in there at the undergraduate level gets pretty challenging, just because there's just this finite limit on how many courses they can take. Because unfortunately, a lot of students are not going gangbusters to say, "Can I take 21 hours a term?" They're instead going, what's the minimum I can do and get out of here in 4 years, because, we're already borrowing money like crazy to pay the tuition, and I just need to get a job and I'll worry about it later. So what I usually tell my students is, get those key skills that the employers want. So you max out that resume as an undergraduate, because I want you to walk in the door and sit down and have you guys who are hiring those people look at that resume and go, that's the person I want. Now, maybe they don't have every piece of those skills, but I tell them the business skills skills are great, but I would put that on the back end because that's I mean, they're nice to have, but if you could learn Unix and C versus learning economics and Excel, I'm going to tell them to learn Unix and C first. Now, if I get some 12-year-old hacker who's coming to the university and he says, oh, yeah, I rewrote my own operating system when I was 9, and, you know, I redeveloped Linux into my own kernel last year, and I already got a product on the market, I'm like, you know what, why don't you just do that and go take some business courses and, you know, and you'll be all set. But a lot of these kids don't have any of the skills. I mean, they're not coming in.
But I do want to say along those lines, Doug, one of the things I've been thinking about lately is, you know, knowledge is no substitute for initiative.
Yeah.
And you told me before the show that how many students are in your curriculum, roughly?
Like 50, 60.
And how many of them signed up for a Linux course recently?
18.
So those 18 are on the top of my list, right?
Yeah.
Because they showed initiative.
Damn right.
And those are the kind of people that
They're on top of my list, too, because that's the people who do well in this field.
Yeah.
Because the people that sign into this field and go, I'm here because my dad said I should major in this, that's not a good thing.
I graduated college in 1999. You know how many people were in my programming classes that were like, yeah, I heard programmers make a lot of money now, and I want to be a programmer. And I'm like,
but the people that say, oh, my God, you're offering a Linux class that I can do in my spare time. I want to learn more about Linux. I kind of know something. Can I do all that in 1 week and do the next one the next week? I'm like, that's the guy I'm going to send to all my top employers because that's the person who's going to excel. I got a guy right now who works in my lab. Maybe he's watching. Hello. You know, he's sitting in my lab, and he's coming in and going, can I help you with those servers? You know,
Oh my God.
I'm like, I can't pay you. You know, I can't pay you any money.
wait, we can pay him.
Yeah. and he's like, I have so many offers and internships and all this, but I still want to come in, and on my day off, I'm going to come in here and try to work on this VMware stuff because I don't know enough about that, and I'd really like to add that in my backpack. And I'm like, that's the guy you want right there.
Yeah.
I just want to add a component to it, too, because I'm actively looking at this in the K to 12 space. And one of the things I've noticed is kind of twofold. Some of the kids that do best, that we need in this field, don't have the highest GPAs. Yep. And their parents have no understanding. So when you say computer, in fact, I've gone and talked to parents. I've gone and talked to teachers. And so we always have this belief, oh, if we just got the teachers to do this better, or there's not enough teachers, or we don't pay them enough. That may be true in some cases, but when you go talk to the teachers and you actually ask them what's up, what they'll say to you is, the kids don't understand. They don't understand, and their parents. So they come home and they say, hey, I'm really good at this computer stuff. The parents hear hacker. They go, well, you're going to get arrested? What are you doing? It's illegal? No. I don't have money for bail. No, we're not going to do that. and so what's interesting then is that when our industry keeps crying that we don't have people to fulfill the roles, which I think is largely a canard, then we get, right, there's your SAT word for me. But
that one
is what I keep looking at is if we could build a vocational ability, we can start teaching these kids. I don't want STEM, right? If you learn STEM, you'll have a job. If you learn STEAM, you'll be the one offering the jobs because the arts are what give you the empathy. That's what's going to build in that leadership. That's going to give you that character. That's going to do the stuff that's going to make that difference. We could get to a place where you're 18, 19 years old. You've got 6 years of experience. And if we've involved the locality and the industry into that process, they understand better what they're looking for. And those kids have actual experience. And every time I look at that, I say, if I could give you somebody who's got 3 to 5 years of actual experience and you've worked with and mentored them, would you give them a job starting tomorrow? And I haven't found anybody.
Actually, can I add on to that as well?
Please do.
No, we don't do that.
So let me say something in that I've been advocating. I'm an adjunct professor. I've taught at multiple colleges and universities. I've taught entire classrooms from everything from beginning Linux to the ethics of InfoSec. And dear God, I've had some of the worst experiences you can possibly imagine. I had somebody who plagiarized their final essay for the ethics of InfoSec. I'm like, seriously?
Yay!
Wow.
I've had classes.
Who hasn't done that in their career?
Yeah, that's called creative thinking.
But remember, if you steal from one person, it's plagiarism. If you steal from 15, it's scholarship. But
Microsoft.
True. But, very true.
They're not a sponsor,
anyway,
are they?
No.
I'm actually been advocating recently in recent years for a college education almost on a VOTEC basis, and I think that's what you were talking about. I really want to see apprenticeships come back.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really want to see people go, I've learned how to do Linux in class because that's a valid way to learn it. I'm totally cool with that. Okay, here's your Raspberry Pi. Go take it home and go play with your Linux. You've got your own little Linux box. Okay. Yep. And that's wonderful, and it works. I taught Linux; it works well. Learn Python from the MIT open courseware stuff, or in class. I'm good with that too. But at the end of the day, when you want to go out there and learn pen testing or forensics or whatever, why are you not going to a conference and doing the forensics challenge, or why are you not going to apprentice with a local company and doing? And an internship is an apprenticeship. Don't get me wrong; it's fine. Okay.
Well, I just want to add a piece of that because I've been studying this a lot, and obviously Doug and others, you guys do this too. But I've been studying how we learn, and so what's interesting is, this is Joshua, what you were just talking about. So there's the learning, right? So I can go read a book or I can take a class on something, and there's no shame in that. It's a good way to learn. But then there's learning with your cohort, and then there's applying under stress. And what a vocational thing does for you is it takes whatever you think you've learned and you apply it under stress. And none of us are good at that first time through. And if you are, then it was luck, or you're somebody I've never met. But you need that combination, and that's what like a more vocational aspect can do. That's where you bring back the apprenticeships, you bring back the guild mentality, and we can start training ourselves and we can learn that. And the only thing I would say, as I've been sitting and listening, is I look at other models where we can teach people tech, but I can't teach you how to think. I can't teach you curiosity. I can't teach you that
soft skills.
And it usually makes me stabby when I hear soft skills, just because they're the hardest to acquire. But yeah, let's teach kids leadership. Let's teach kids how to communicate. Let's teach them how to prioritize.
Let me plug two things for you then. I completely agree, because I got in this field because of that. When I was 14, I told my, and this was a long time ago, I told my dad, I said, hey, look, I'd like to be a computer programmer, because my dad wasn't buying the whole guitar player thing. And I thought, well,
and he said, well, there's only Abacus that
I was like,
now.
Programmers get almost as many girls as guitar players, right? And
almost.
And my dad took me down to this muffler plant, and he said, here's these guys, they're going to teach you this. And it was a bunch of old-time, white shirt, black tie engineers, and they were just like, yeah, here, go, sit down. And when you have a problem, wave, and maybe I can answer it, and if not, figure it out. So I completely agree. The other thing I'm going to plug, though, is
wait, they had cars back when you were 14?
No, we wrote a horse. It was on the old coal-fired Victorian mainframe.
Doug is my jack substitute this week.
I was shoveling coal and keeping those steam pipes going.
Both ways, uphill in the snow.
But I'm gonna plug Cyber Patriot. So we got involved in this thing called Cyber Patriot that the Air Force put out, and what they did was they targeted K-12s. And they're trying to get kids to this. And I'm going to sum all what you guys were saying up into what I call desire. The desire for technology. Yep. That's what drives these kids. When they're asking questions, when a kid comes to me and says, I need to code this, I have no idea how. That's the greatest question you ever get, because you can go, let's learn C. Or let's learn Scratch, or let's learn whatever you think will get them going on it. And those are the kids that 2 years later are going, I've been learning Ruby today. Can you help me with that? I'm going, well, I know a little bit about it. And they're going, well, let me show you my game. And you're going, okay, you're way beyond where I am. It's like, it looks good to me. But Cyber Patriot's trying to help instill some of that desire into the high school students and get them on that VOTEC apprenticeship track, because they're matching up a kid and maybe a teacher who doesn't know very much about this stuff, especially from where we are. Especially you guys, with industry people who are acting as mentors. So they've got people like you guys coming in and helping them when they have a problem, and that gets them in this mindset where a lot of us are and have started. So I think you guys are right on there, and I wish we could get higher ed to go right down that road, but it's a tough sell, let me tell you.
Let me add one more piece into this, just because there's a subtlety to this that we've all touched on, but I just want to amplify it. When you act in that role as that mentor or that guide, that teacher, whatever word you want to use, I find we almost always learn more than the people we're guiding. As long as they come to us with that curiosity, that demand, that drive, the questions they ask, the stuff we end up sharing with them, we're so much better for it. So as an industry, there's no downside to this. You will never replace yourself unless that's replacing yourself into a better position. Yeah. So as we start doing these things, and if you get that opportunity where somebody says, will you come mentor these kids? Will you come teach them what you know? Will you share? You're stupid if you don't jump on that.
I agree. Plus you know them. You're going to know those kids. Right. That's why we send them out there, because then the employers know exactly who they are, and they say, can you get Steve to come to me and do an internship, because I want to hire him as soon as he's graduated or sooner.
Yeah.
Wait. It gets even better. It gets even better. So you've got, let's say you mentor, and I'm Mike, I could kiss you. You're awesome. Let's say you mentor a group of kids. I'm sorry, Scott.
You can do that on this show.
It's totally cool. It's an open show.
Yeah, we accept all, affiliations.
That's right.
So let's say you mentor a group of kids, teenagers, college kids, whatever, it doesn't matter. And you take these 5, 10, 1 kids, whatever, and turn them into somebody that's understanding and excited, and they're so much farther along the path of that under stress type of ability. Mm-hmm. They understand how to not only have the knowledge, but apply the knowledge. Yes. 2 years later, 3 years later, 5 years later, one of them's running a company, and who are they going to call when they need a little help? You're expanding. Not only are you learning more by doing.
One better, Josh. I don't think all of us have kids, but I have kids. When my friends call me and they want their lock picked, they don't ask for me. They ask for my son. And, you couldn't be, a more proud dad, right?
Yeah.
That day at my friend's house where, I turn my back and I'm like, Carson, because I can't pick the lock, and my son's, standing inside the shed going, hey, look, Dad, I got it open.
and to give you another example from education that happened just 2 weeks ago, I was telling Doug about it earlier. I participated as a mentor in this startup challenge for, it's called the Tech Collaborative. They're a not-for-profit organization here in Rhode Island that takes K-12 students, mostly more of the 8-12 students, and who are interested in technology, and they put them in groups. And these groups have 72 hours to come up from start to finish a product, a company, and every sort of means of distribution of that product, and then we help them get it off the ground. So we had a bunch of all these crazy, awesome people that were coming in, mentoring all the way up from C-level to down to sort of just me, whatever. And in 72 hours, they came up with this idea called the Pop-Up Planetarium. So on October 27th, we're going to the Met School, which is an urban high school in Providence, and these kids came up with this idea of creating this pop-up planetarium, which is an inflatable space, and putting people in there with telescopes. We got a URI professor of astronomy coming to give a little talk about astronomy, and they did this in 72 hours. They found the funding, they found all these resources, these people, and all it took was just a little bit of community help, and they created this company called The Universe is Rad. Shameless plug, but it is what it is. And they started this whole thing in 70. I mean, I don't want to hear from people anymore saying, "Hey, these kids, they can't do it. They're bogged down by the system." Right. No, bullshit. Look at them. These kids did this in 72 hours. Where's your excuse?
Yep. I think that's great. And it comes full circle to helping people with business. I hate to cut it short on time, but unfortunately we are out of time for this segment. Because I do want to get through, because Josh and Scott have not been on the show before. They have not answered the 5 questions.
Oh boy.
Josh, I'm going to start with you. 3 words to describe yourself.
Loud, truth teller, and infosec therapist is my nickname. So,
Scott, 3 words to describe yourself.
Louder.
Come on.
Work ethic. I know. Louder, massive work ethic. Willing to give the shirt off my back to help someone.
Scott, if you were a serial killer, what would be your weapon of choice?
Ooh. The clown that makes Dave Kennedy shake in his pants.
Josh, if you were a serial killer, what would be your weapon of choice?
Oh, goodness. Something undetectable. Probably poison and then fire.
Josh, if you wrote a book about yourself, what would the title be?
In Spite of Himself.
Scott?
Space Invader.
Scott, in the popular game of Ask Grabby Grabby, do you prefer to go first or second?
Well, it depends on the situation.
Okay, it's a multiple choice question. It's either first or second.
He wrote in an answer. It's okay.
There's no other. It's first.
It's outside the box.
It's second.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's middle of the road.
Okay, we'll go middle of the road with Scott. Josh, in Ask Grabby Grabby, in the popular game of Ask Grabby Grabby, do you prefer to go first or second?
If I knew what Ask Grabby Grabby was, I could answer. Let's just say first.
Okay, it's popular in Europe. Josh, choose.
We love it here.
Josh, choose 2 celebrities to be your parents.
Oh God.
Alive or dead?
Fictional or non-fictional? Thank you, Michael.
Crap. Okay.
That's not one. Just saying.
The Monster Hunter International 2. Z and Gloria. But anyway, how about Lucy and Ricky?
Scott?
Oh, Lucy.
You got a lot of explaining to do.
I'm home.
This ass grabby stuff.
Okay, so I'm a big fan of comics. So Deadpool and
Oh God.
Scarlet Witch.
And who?
Who?
Scarlet Witch.
Oh.
Scarlet Witch. Josh and Scott, thank you very much for appearing on Security Weekly. It was wonderful having you. Woo!
Absolute
Look forward
pleasure.
to the next
Thanks,
time.
John.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next segment.